Yo, 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 what up, what up, what up, what up? All right, so this is part 3 in the little how do I begin my RV journey series. So where I last left off at in part 2 was we all had to split ways again. The four of us became six, and then at the very last day it became seventh. The day afterwards, that's when the cops came. We got the knocks again, and they put up the signs again. You know, no overnight stay, no vehicles under so many tons, um, or they will be impounded. You know, by this company. So that's what happened. We all had to leave again, and but this time we all had an idea of who was who. Towards the end, the guys, the group of guys, the um, from the six that eventually that became seven just for one day. But those six, you know, four of them, besides me and Don Jorge, they were going at each other. They were just robbing from each other, you know, stealing each other's solar panels, stealing other things, electric scooters, and all sorts of things that they were just robbing from each other. So they were just going at it, and it was getting crazy. Just the activity that just kept on going. You know, sketchy people going in and out of those RVs, and it was all bad. You know, just yeah, it was a mess. Um, it yeah, it got so bad. I remember, um, well, I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna go on from there. That's where I left off at. So Don Jorge, he found a spot. Like I said, we had already been talking about it because you know we both predicted what was about to happen. Just because it was getting really hot, you know, we're constantly getting harassed by the public and the police, and it was just bad in so many ways. So we already knew what was gonna happen, so we started preparing. Don Jorge, he had his spot, so he immediately went to that spot. Um, I didn't know where to go, and at the time, I pretty much had a roommate with me. That's another story that I could go into detail, maybe in a later video. But I'm just gonna say, at that time, I had already had a roommate for, I want to say 2 months. Yeah, 2 months. So yeah, me and my roommate did not know where we're gonna go, and yeah, my roommate was sleeping the futon because it extends into a bed, and then I got the back room, and then I would just close that door because it could have closed. I just, you know, from my room, I just extend this all the way through and latch it on over here, and then also use this door right here, and then you know, it becomes the room basically. So that's how I was doing it. But yeah, so he was over there, I was back there, and then so you know, I hadn't found a spot, and it was just immediate. So at the end we're like, you know what, um how about we just he how about we just stay within the same neighborhood right here, just pretty much a little bit further down. There's a lot of space, and it was kind of like near a church, and it was a lot of just empty space right there. But I noticed, I had always noticed every time I would walk through the neighborhood, just going to the grocery store, or go, you pretty much running errands, go do laundry, picking up mail and whatever. I always noticed through the neighborhood, eventually, like towards the beginning of the neighborhood, once you get to the, yeah, to the very beginning, because we're parked like kind of like towards the end of the neighborhood. But when you get to like kind of like in the beginning, there is some apartments right there that always had some characters. I'm just gonna say that. And they're usually hanging out outside, and you know, they had a bunch of cars just parked on the public street. Cars that you could tell that they were all projects, and there was always just people working on the cars. You know, and yeah, they were just, so it just looked like a bunch of just projects that they were working on. A bunch of them looked like kind of like lowrider type of style cars, and yeah, just a bunch of project cars, and so, and there was a lot of them. So where I decided to, me and my roommate talked about it, and like, you know, there's plenty of space right there, you know, up in the church area, right before you get to the church, and it's still within the same neighborhood. You know, we could just move up there. Well, he suggested that to me, and I'm like, we could, but I don't know. it's a little bit kind of close to the church, and I don't. I let's let's do it. Let's go try it out. See how it goes. And then he's like, yeah, yeah, just try it out, and if it doesn't work out, we'll find some other spot. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's do it. So we did it, and 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 right away, um, the thugs, the thugs or whatever, the ones from the apartment, they drove by us. As I was getting ready to park, had just parked. I had just turned on the vehicle, like literally a second or two ago, and they drove by slowly, and it was a gang full of them. Um, it was they were going through an SUV, and man, it must have been eight of them, you know, all bald headed, tatted up, and everything, crazy looking, and they're just mad dogging us, me and my roommate, and just didn't say anything, they were just staring at us like not in a friendly way, until one of them eventually, as they drove away, he's like, you guys better get out of here, homie, and that's all he said. But during the time that they were driving slowly and just staring at us, they didn't say nothing. They were just like mad dogging us, all eight of them. So it definitely didn't feel welcoming. I got the hint, I got the message, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna risk this. Is yeah. So you know what, it's not worth it. Let's just jam. So we had to find another spot, and I did notice that there was like one truck a little bit ahead of us, kind of distant, but still within kind of like the same parking area. That was like one of their project cars. So I'm like, all right, they probably use this space to as part of their project, parking space too. And like I said, that they just, they had a bunch of project cars just on a public street that just ran for a long, distance, to the point where even where I was at, where I was trying to park at. So yeah, I just didn't want to deal with that. It wasn't worth it. So we just got out of there. So that's when I remembered, it came to my head. I'm like, you know what? Whatever happened to Don Felipe? Because after the move, Jerry left. I was the first one to leave immediately. I didn't even stay the night. Jerry left the day after. Don Felipe stayed. Whatever happened to him? And I remember throughout the months, I tried reaching out to him at least twice. He didn't answer, and that was that. I just pretty much just hoped that he was doing well. I assumed that he was doing well, and that's where I left it off at. So at the end, I got curious. I'm like, I wonder how he's doing, and I wonder if that spot, if he's still in the same spot, and if it's good. Now it's been plenty of time already, where he could pretty much give his judgment, and it'll be pretty solid now, because it's been like what, 3+ months that 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 he would have been in that spot. So let me go check it out. Let me go pass by. And I talked with my roommate, and he's like, yeah, let's go check it out. And then sure enough, so we checked it out, and then as soon as we entered the neighborhood, I remember I'm like, man, it's so empty right here. It's so nice. There's so much space for the RVs. It's just empty. The whole beginning of the neighborhood is empty. And then I noticed, I'm like, there's no RVs. What happened to Don Felipe? Like, he's gone. So that's when I noticed that he was gone, and so it was just gonna be me. There was no other RVs, and I did see a van, a regular van, but that was it. And that van looked like somebody was living in it, which somebody was living in it, and yeah. So Don Felipe was gone, and that was that. So at the end, I'm like, all right, well, I guess it's just a matter of me having to try and see how the spot is again. This time I'm really gonna try, because I kind of really don't have a choice, and I'm not trying to go back to my hometown. So attempt number 2, 3 months and a half later, something like that. So yeah, so Don Jorge went to his spot. I don't know what happened to Don Felipe, and then and I returned back to where Don Felipe had parked at the last time I seen him. So I came back to the spot and I attempted again. Stayed for the night. It was really good, and this time it was me, my roommate, and you know, it went well. And next thing you know, I gave it a whole week. It went well, really well. And then and my roommate, he ended up moving out the almost like that same month. Like 3 weeks later, he moved out. He found a room. He had a good job. And yeah, he got his own, pretty much like a studio. He got his own studio, so that was cool. That was cool of him. Um, I was happy for him, and then I stayed right here in the spot where Don Felipe was at, and 1 year and almost like 1 year and 1 week later, here I am still. I'm still in the same spot. So this has been legit. It's been really good. So it's been quite a journey though. I just so many things that living in this RV and going through the experiences. It's been a lot. Towards the end, going backtracking a little bit. Since it's been a year, officially a year and a week. I want to say 2 months ago. So you know, so Don Jorge, he ended up staying in the spot that he went to when we all split up. He stayed there for almost a year, and I stayed over here. Yeah, which has been a year and a week, and we still stayed in touch. Because we're still in the same city, and we're both just a couple miles, like literally 2 miles away from each other. So we're really close by each other, and but Don Jorge, he was an elderly man in his late 60s to early 70s, and he would go to this dialysis center that was that's like half a mile from where I'm at, and maybe like a mile from where he was at. So almost the same distance, yeah. But so he would go to that dialysis center every other day, 3 to 4 times a week, and he would stay there for 2 hours or whatever. And he told me about his condition. He didn't tell it to anybody else. The only person he told it to was just to me. So I was the only one that knew about his condition. The other RV guys, they had no clue. They didn't know the condition that he was in, and yeah. So anyway, so he always had that, and then towards the end, I remember, he was telling me that, um, can't remember what it was, that he wished that he was a little bit closer, even though it's still pretty close. It's only 1 mile away from where he parked at, but he still wanted it to be closer to the dialysis center. I thought it was super close. It's only a mile, and he had a car, but he still wanted to be a little bit closer. And then and I can't remember what was the other reason. Um, I think that was pretty much it. Just that. He did mention that he had another RB guy that discovered him. That's a thing that I'm gonna get into afterwards. Another RV guy that discovered him, so started parking pretty much at his area, within the same area, and he felt kind of uncomfortable at first. It was just unsettling to him because he didn't know the person, he didn't know what it was about, and yeah, but so I guess that's why he was kind of considering like trying to leave too, because he just felt kind of strange and uncomfortable with that. But in reality, he didn't really care to move. He was good. He was really good where he was at. He liked it a lot. He would just have, you know he would just mention this every now and then, but he wasn't really serious about it. He actually really liked where he was at, so much that he was always trying to convince me to move with them. To be together with them again. But just me. He didn't care about the other guys, Max and Jerry and everybody else. Like, he wasn't even considering them no more. And they stay within the same city too, but they did their own thing, and that was that. Like me and Don Jorge, that's what we kept it at. So we still saw them every now and then, shopping at the stores or whatever. We would randomly bump into them, and we pretty much just left it as we just greeted them, and then that was it. Just to be friendly and respectable. We pretty much just said what's up, and then we just left it at that. We didn't engage in anything more than that because, after all the experiences that we seen and that that was happening, is like we just didn't want to be involved and be a part of that world. I'm like, nah, yeah, we're good. So but yeah, so anyways, so Don Jorge was always trying to convince me to go with them, but I never I didn't consider it because there was more cons than pros. There were some benefits to it, some pros to living in a spot that he parked at, but there was just way more cons. The benefits that it did have were good though, but it just wasn't good enough. The cons outweigh the pros. So I'm gonna go into so the thing is, where I park at, the street sweeper passes by once a week. It's supposed to pass by once a week, but I actually found out that it doesn't. It doesn't. So that makes it even more convenient in a way. But yeah, it's supposed to pass once a week, and so that's what I would do. So what I did is I found a second spot, which is pretty much around the block. So I would go to my second spot just once a week, stay there for one day, one whole day. The very next day, I come to my regular spot where I'm here 6 days a week. So yeah, so I use my second spot just as a one day parking spot, and that's what I do. I just rotate. I pretty much just go around the block. Really, my second spot's literally around the block, and then so that's what I was doing for the longest. Eventually, one time, my RV battery didn't want to turn on. I drained it because what happened? I had returned home too late from work, and I was going to school at the same time, and I had final exams, so I was studying. I was exhausted from work, but I still had to study because of my final exams. And by the time I slept, it was already like 3 in the morning, and I still had to move the RB because the street sweeper was gonna come, within 2 hours from, or 1 hour, no, 2 hours from the time that I was about to go to sleep, and it was just too much going on, that I'm like, you know what, yeah, maybe I should just take a break and then just take the citation and pay. It still beats paying rents. It's just one citation. So that's what I was thinking, and then and I think I did. No, actually, I did go check the second spot, even though I was really tired and it was already taken. Normally, it was available, but my spot was already taken. So, and that's when I returned back, and I don't want to deal with trying to find another spot to avoid a citation. I'm like, you know what, my spot wasn't available, and I'm way too tired to try to find a spot. I'm running out of time. I need to get rest anyways because I gotta take the final exams, and I'm not even gonna get proper rest as it is. So just forget it. I'm gonna take the citation, whatever it is, what it is. And then I'm like, and that's when I was about to knock out, and that's when I came to my head. I'm like, what if I leave the curtains open and I check if the street sweeper even passes by? Because I don't think I ever seen a street sweeper pass by. So I'm kind of curious, And if I do see it, pass by and getting ready to cite me, I'm gonna leave the curtains open just this one time because it's supposed to pass by for 2 hours, So if I see it, then I'm just gonna get in the front seat and then wave at the street sweeper that I'm gonna take off, not to cite me, please, and then just take off, because I am curious to see if it even passes by to begin with. So so that's what happened. So that happened. I waited, and I did not see the street sweeper pass by. Man, I never got cited. So that's when I'm like, what the hell's going on? Street sweeper didn't even pass by. I'm like, that's good for me, But I'm surprised, because all this time I was moving it thinking that it passes, doesn't even pass. Was that a coincidence? Did I just get lucky? That my spot happened to be taken, and the street sweeper, and I didn't get cited. The street sweeper didn't even pass by in the day that my spot got taken. Like, what are the odds of that? So I didn't end up moving the RV, and then finally, so I went another week of not moving it, and then when it was time to move it again, um, I'm getting ready to move it, but since I hadn't moved the RV for 2 weeks, and back then I didn't know about I didn't know about this button that I kind of recently discovered, which I made a video about. The battery disconnect button. You press the main one, and it shuts off the battery that's responsible to ignite the engine. It reserves the power, so that way it doesn't get drained. So I discovered that on accident, and but back then I didn't know about that. So whenever I stationed my RV, I would just let it be. I didn't touch it, and I didn't mess with any of the buttons or anything. But if you do that, it's gonna drain the battery, because there's still electricity flowing, even though you're not making use of the you're not running the engine or anything. It's still draining. So yeah, since I hadn't moved it for 2 weeks, it drained the battery. So this time, when it was time for me to try to move the RV again, I went to go check that my spot was available, and it was available. But this time the RV didn't want to turn on because the battery, it was completely dead. And that's when I'm like, shit. And I normally try to do everything at nighttime when everybody's asleep. So it was already like, what, close to midnight, and I'm like, shit. Well, I'm screwed now because the AutoZone's already closed, and either way it requires hours to to have the batteries fully recharged from dead, and then especially an RV battery. So I'm like, damn. Here it goes again. So I'm like, I'm forced now to stay right here. Hopefully I don't get sighted. And then that's when I did the same thing again. I left the curtains open to see if I happen to see the street sweeper pass by and sight me, and sure enough, it didn't pass by again, and I didn't get sighted. So that was pretty much my confirmation that the street sweeper doesn't pass by. So that's when I'm like, damn. So all this time, that I was moving back and forth, in a way, it was kind of like for nothing, when it's not really necessary, because I don't even get sighted right here. I could pretty much just stay right here. But it's still good to do anyways, to move around, But so yeah, that's when I confirmed it. So going back to that, going back to Don Jorge. So one of the days, recently, somewhat recent, I've been starting to have issues now because I already been discovered by RVs. I don't just like disclosing my location for a reason, for various reasons. It's more than just one reason. But one of the reason is because a competition. Me being off grid and finding a good spot. If I disclose the location, everybody's gonna know about this location, and guess what? The spot's not gonna be available for me no more. Like, it's gonna be full of RVs, and then next thing you know, they're gonna come with the signs, no overnight staying, So I'm not trying to mess that up for myself, So yeah, that's one of the big reasons why I don't disclose. There's many other reasons too. It's not just that, many other reasons, but that's one reason, and that's already a really valid reason, alone. But so yeah, so I moved. These past few months, it's been, I've been getting discovered a lot by RVs, kind of a lot, and so it's been competitive now, and yeah, so I grew aware of it when, like always, I would, even after I discovered that the street sweeper doesn't pass by right here, I still moved, once a week. I still did it a habit, because I thought it was still a good idea, just not to stay on the same spot all the time. So when I moved over there, I stayed there for the day, and then the following day I'm getting ready to return. And then when I'm getting ready to return, that's when I noticed that somebody had taken my spot, another RV. And the RV that took away my spot, it was a ghetto one, It was all beat up, it was all destroyed, and with the big bags of trash left outside of the door with a cart full of trash, and it was just bad. I'm like, man, all these things so fast, and yeah, somebody had taken my spot. So that's when I'm like, shit, man, where am I gonna park at now? And and there's still a lot of space behind my spot where I normally park at right here. Because the way how this neighborhood is, the whole first beginning, it's like, let's say the neighborhood is like 1 mile long. It's a pretty long neighborhood. The first half mile of the neighborhood, it's all industrial. So you see warehouses, you see commercial places, you see business buildings. It's all industrial. The remaining half of the neighborhood is all residential, so you see nothing but houses. So that's why I intentionally park right here, because I'm like, all right, I'm trying to stay away from the residential homes. That way I'm not a disturbance, I'm not a nuisance, and people don't feel, intimidated, or they don't feel bothered by my presence, because I'm not even in their presence. I'm not taking no one's parking space away. I'm not irritating anybody. I'm just completely away from them, so they have no excuse to be complaining or say anything. So I did that intentionally. And then so I put myself in the industrial place. But putting myself in the industrial place, I was still thinking, I'm like, all right, but I'm also not trying to take away parking space from employees. I want to have them be able to park without any issues. So in the beginning, right at the very beginning of the neighborhood, it's there's this big area where it's just trees. It's just a wall, and then it's just full of bushes and trees. And then the industrial begins. The industrial spaces began. So I park at that very beginning of the neighborhood where it's all trees and bushes. That's where I park it, because it's nothing. It's pretty much just nothing. Eventually it becomes business related, and then eventually it becomes residential. But the very, very, very beginning, it's pretty much just blank. It's nothing. So that's where I stay at. And then I can still park behind where I'm parked at right now, behind my RV. But I'll be parking still in the street, street property, public property. But I'll be parking facing directly across from the business areas, which I don't want to do, because I know that that's what employees like using the parking spot. And my RV being big, I'm just not trying to take that away and deal with that. And I found out one time the hard way. So that so I parked behind. When they had taken my spot, that's what happened. I'm like, all right, then, well, I guess I'm just gonna park behind them, which was like directly from the business space, like I said. And then sure enough, I got the knock. It wasn't from the cops though, it was just from the employees. And they were saying like, hey man, we use this parking space for our cars that we work on. So I understood, and I wasn't trying to like cause any trouble, because then it's gonna, word's gonna start spreading, and then everyone's gonna be hating on you in the neighborhood, and that's the last thing I want to do, to just have enemies in the neighborhood and not be welcome no more. So I'm like, you know what? Plus I understand them too. They're trying to get their hustle on too. So I'm not trying to ruin that for them too. So regardless, yeah. So I understood. So I'm like, all right, I'm out. No worries. So that's when I'm like, all right, what am I gonna do? Again, I'm always trying to avoid going to my hometown. And then that's when I'm like, all right, you know what? I know. Don Jorge, for the longest, he's been trying to convince me to go move with him, so we could have each other's back, to be pretty much kind of like the old days, but this time just be me and him, because we both trusted each other. We're both clean, we're both straight edge, and yeah, we're good, with each other. So that's when I'm like, you know what? I don't have no choice but to try it now, until my spot becomes available again. But I doubt it's gonna become available, because who wants to leave this spot? It's a really good spot, and yeah, so. But then I thought to myself, but you know what? This spot probably will become available. Why? Because first impressions that I'm getting, when I pass by right here, man, a shitload of trash already, surrounding their RV. I'm like, come on, man, you barely came, and you're already like leaving all this shit surrounding your RV. Like, man, that's calling, for trouble. You're like pretty much asking for somebody to report you, which someone eventually will, and it's gonna be like more than one complaint, because people walk their dogs, and it's a decent neighborhood, so there's gonna be the Karens, there's gonna be people that are gonna be on your ass for sure, So I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna wait it out. I think it is gonna become a real eventually. If that person is already gonna be like that, who knows with time how much more dirty it's gonna get, which I was, I pretty much predicted, because it did become more filthy, and because I kept on passing through every day, with my bike to check on, on the area if it was still available, and every time I passed through, it was getting more filthy and more filthy, and but yeah, so going back, so I went to Don Jorge. That was my idea that I came up with. I'm like, all right, you know what? He's been trying to convince me. Let me go try it out. Let me go give him a call, so I could let him know. And I told him what was happening with my situation, that my space got taken, and that I was willing to try it out now, to go to where he was at and then see how it is, see how it goes. And he was kind of thrilled, and he's like, yeah, finally, yeah. He's like, yeah, come over, man. If you don't like it, just at least now right? You can't know until you try. And I'm like, yeah, you're right about that. So all right, I'll get there. And then sure enough, I got there, and I had already made my evaluation prior to getting there. That's why I never considered that spot. Just my own thought process. I made a determination, like, yeah, I picture in my mind that it's gonna be like this, and that's not what I wanted to do. So, my thought process was, so I'm gonna describe the spot where he was at. So he's at a main street, meaning that he's at a big, huge, wide street that's one of the big. It's not a neighborhood street. It's not a regular neighborhood street. It's the one of the main streets, where there's traffic lights, and there's like 6 lanes. It's like 3 or 4 lanes from each side going opposite direction, east and west, whatever. So it's a main street, and there's sidewalks, and there's stores and residential homes all around in the main street. It's not a regular neighborhood that's all filled with resident homes and schools. No, it's a main street that's filled with everything: stores, churches, fences, and wall barriers, and it's a main street. So that's where he was at. So my thought process was, okay, the cons. Right away, it's a main street. So, and it's close to the traffic lights too. The speed limit there, I think it's like 40 or 45. And people easily, go 60 or above. They stay going fast. So when cars fly by past you, you could definitely feel the movement in your RV. It starts shaking and everything, and like it just doesn't feel steady. So that's one thing I predicted that you were gonna be able to feel. And then another thing, that RV is close to a nightclub. It's about a mile, 1 mile away from a nightclub. And then so on the weekends, when people are getting drunk and they're dancing and everything, they're doing their thing, and when it's time to go home and all the drunks are trying to go home, it's just risky. It's a big risk because it's so close to the nightclub. So imagine combination of high speed, being drunk, and then being close to you. Like, it's not a good combination, So you gotta, I don't know. It's just the thought of it gets me paranoid. So that's red flag number 2. Red flag number 3 is that the pavement is not completely flat and even all the way. Where you park at, there's a big curve. So yeah, it curves down like significantly. So it really curves down. So when you park the RV, his RV and other cars that were parked right there, you could see that they're like the way how they look, it's like kind of like tilted to the side a lot. And then it's like it doesn't look straight. The vehicles don't look straight. You know, they're really tilted to the side because the pavement is curving down. It's not even. So I'm like, man, so how do you even walk inside there? And what happens when you lay on your bed? You're gonna be rolling over. Like, it's not gonna feel comfortable. And then so that was my prediction. That was just me visualizing the scenario. So that's red flag number 3, a huge red flag. Red flag number 4. I said to myself, you know, it's not a really good spot because, like, sorry about that. It's just someone passed by. I got the security alert. So, all right. So red flag number 4 was it's in the main street, so the public transit buses pass by right there too, at the main street. That's how you know it's a main street, because the public transit buses pass by right there. You don't see public buses really going through the neighborhood. It's a main street, so so that being said, you know, and then since you're close to the traffic lights too, like literally less like 1/10 of a mile away, less than a quarter of a mile, like you're right there walking distance to the traffic light, and it's a busy street, you know. So when it comes to a red light, so many people are going to be seeing you go in and out about doing, you know, just going about your business, running errands or whatever. The whole world is going to know you coming out of the RV, going inside the RV. So you have no privacy at all. Everyone's going to know you, you know, your situation and everything. So that was another red flag number 4. And so overall it was just like too many red flags, you know, too many red flags. And yeah, I didn't like that. The good things is that it's at a nice area, because where I'm at, it's kind of like, in a way, it's too industrial like. So there's a lack of how do I say it? There's a lot of stores, but not as many as like over there, because it's more city like over there. Over here it's more just buildings and business, warehouses, you know, factories and things of that nature, you know. Yeah, there's stores, but it's more limited, you know, so there's not that much variety of stores, and you kind of have to drive out there. It's not like over there where you could just walk and then there's just gonna be store after store, you know. So yeah, I like that about his area, because it's like really city like, surrounded by a bunch of stores, surrounded by neighborhoods, a bunch of nice homes, and it's just at a nice spot, you know, nice spot in the city, you know. And then not only that, but it's very convenient in the distance, because it's so close to everything that was necessary for someone that's living off grid like me. Close to the gym, you know, close to the Planet Fitness, very close. Close to the mail place, the PO box, very close, walking distance to both of them if you really want to walk it. You know, close to what else? The gas station was walking distance. The parks was the walking distance as well. Where I go play basketball, you know, it's just so convenient, because everything that I normally try to do on a daily basis, the gym, go shower, the PO box, get the mail, and everything else that I mentioned, you know, gas and all that, grocery shopping, everything's so close by, so it makes that so convenient, you know. So that was the pro to it, and like I said, a nice area pro, and but that's pretty much where the pros ended at, you know. That was pretty much it. Like I said, the cons definitely, absolutely outweighed the pros, and but at this point I had no choice. I want to go try it out, and basically what I predicted in my thought process, that's basically what came true. Like, I already knew how the experience was gonna, you know, be beforehand, and I pretty much confirmed it once I made the move. because that's exactly what I was experiencing. So I parked, and immediately after like the second I parked, you know, my RV was tilted very, very much to the side. So when I stood up, I felt like dizzy and disoriented because I'm like, what the hell, man? It's like, I don't even feel like I'm like standing up straight. I feel like I'm gonna fall down and trip right now. And then when I got to my bed to try to knock out, I freaking rolled over. I rolled over to my closet. And I'm like, man, and it just feels so uncomfortable. Like, it feels so weird trying to sleep like crooked, like curved. Like you're being pushed to the curve. Like it feels so weird trying to sleep. Like it makes it like almost impossible to try to sleep. So yeah, that was really unsettling. And then not only that, but what when I was just walking back and forth, going to the restroom, we're sitting down right here to the futon, just doing things, regular things. You like walking was like a challenge. Like I felt so weird walking like sideways. Like it just feels weird. And then all the movement that was happening, with my RV rocking back and forth, side to side because of the cars constantly passing by fast, and that traffic, that the constant traffic never stops. It's like 24/7. You would think at nighttime people would be knocked out and it would be more, calm, and it is calm. Don't get me wrong, but not that calm still. Like there's still so much activity going on and so much rocking side to side. It's like, man, it's hard to get sleep. In addition to you being curved to the side because you're rolling over, it's like too many things going on, and it's just what I predicted, and it pretty much got confirmed. And then like when I was stepping out to go run errands, I stepped down and and I just like I said, I saw a traffic light because we're pretty much right next to it, and so many cars waiting on the red light, just waiting for the light to turn green, and everybody just sees me step out. It's like no privacy. I'm like, oh man. It's like, yeah, man. It's like too many cons. I didn't like it, But like I said, I did like the convenience of just being able to walk everywhere. Everything that I needed was walking distance. That was super convenient. And then and just walking at a nice scenery of nice part of the city, where it's just nice scenery wherever you are. Wherever you are, wherever you're walking at, it's just a really nice view. It's so that was another good thing. But yeah, but I just couldn't, I couldn't do it. And then there was like a couple signs of street sweeper signs. So right there, it's like you had to move the RV so constantly. You got to move it twice a week, but in reality it's 4 times, because you got to move it 2 times out of the way from one side, and then 2 times once you move from the other side to go back to your spot. So I was like, oh man, it's just constant moving on top of like all the issues. I'm like, man, how does Don Jorge deal with all this? And he's older, he's an elderly man, so no offense, but I'm like, how? But he really likes this place, And like over there where I'm at, I don't gotta move at all, and I still move like once a week. And then it's like, but I really don't even have to move at all, So yeah, eventually I stayed there for like 2 weeks and a half, almost 3 weeks. And then next thing you know, my spot became available again. I'm pretty sure the people got reported and everything. And yeah, it was getting filthy every time I passed by here. It was getting worse and worse. And so I took my spot back. And then so throughout the months, I want to say like 2 months or so, I stayed in touch with Don Jorge. One thing about Don Jorge is that that he really enjoyed talking with me. He kind of like picked my brain. the way I'm like, I say that because like he was always curious about knowing what was up with me. Like if I had any new ideas, if I had anything new going on with with the upgrades in my RV. Like he was always interested in hearing that, and I was always interested in sharing. It felt cool, just have someone that was actually genuinely interested in knowing what I had planned and the ideas that came up in my head, all the time. Like, I don't know, I just like sharing, so it was cool. It was cool for him, it was cool for me. He liked listening, and yeah, he was always curious because he was always trying to mimic what I did. he saw that I succeeded in the things that I did, the upgrades. So, and that it was convenient for me, like it was always benefiting me. So he tried to mimic that, so he could have it too. He was living the same lifestyle as me, anyways. RV off grid. So that's why he was, trying to pretty much um, copy what I did, and then that was cool for me. That's what I'm trying to do. Just definitely try to help out people, that are undergoing the same situation as me, you know, and so that was pretty cool of him that he was fascinated by my thought process or what I came up with, the ideas that I got and everything. So it was cool. Towards the end, he didn't know about solar generators. He knew about the solar panels, but he didn't know about the solar generators. So the way how he was trying to get solar power change from gas to solar, he was trying to do the whole solar kit system where you need a controller, and like you need all sorts of stuff to create your own solar system, which is cool too. It's definitely more complicated though. If you don't know what you're doing, it's definitely more complicated. As opposed to a solar generator where you just pretty much just plug in the solar panels and you're good to go. And so he was planning to do the whole solar kit thing until he learned about the solar generators that I had, and then he went that route instead. And then and he was gonna pay way more than me for the panels, until I told him about my Connect, because I discovered somebody on OfferUp that had that as their business and would sell it to me for very cheap. So that's when he's like, I told him about it, and I'm like, yeah, well, you probably want to go where I go, because where you're showing me it's good, it's decent, fair prices, but you could get more wattage for a cheaper price if you go where I go. And then and I showed him the pictures and the information and everything, and I'm like, I'm actually gonna go next week, so if you want to come with me, you could tag along, get a free ride over there, and then we go together in my car. And he was like so thrilled when I told him that. He's like, oh yeah, definitely, let's do it. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Be ready next week, I'll pick you up. And then so he came with me, and then we bought a bunch of solar panels, and then that was that. And then but the thing is though, Don Jorge, like I was saying, he was always going to the dialysis center. And then so towards the end, I ended up going back to my spot, and I told Don Jorge. He was like a little bit kind of like disappointed, a little bit, not disappointed, but I guess it was kind of like a little bit bad news to him. He's like, oh man, he's like kind of wish you would have stayed right here. I thought it would have been cool, but I understand though. I'm like, yeah, I just got comfortable with my spot, and it's already available again, so so anyways, so when I returned, the Don Jorge had I was experiencing the competition already, from that first experience. Somebody took my spot. Another RV eventually came and tried to take my spot again, and throughout time there was like a little bit more RVs showing up individually, but showing up, pretty much discovering me and trying to take my spot away, and it just became competition. It became very competitive. So at the end, I'm like, if that's happening, like, might as well be with somebody that I know, somebody that I could trust, somebody that's good, that's not gonna mess up this spot, or to the point where I'm gonna start getting harassed by the cops and they're gonna bring down the signs. That's definitely something that I'm trying to avoid. I don't want that to be repeated. It's been good ever since I'm on my own. I had to find out the hard way, like being on my own is the way to do it, because I tried it with communities. In the first spot, it was me, Doug, and then that third RV came and messed it up, and then from there I went to over here in the city, and the trail RVs, it was 10 with me included. It became 10 turned into 12, and then it got all messed up, and then we split up. And then we made it just into a small group of 4, smaller group. And then 4 became 6, and then 6 became 7, and then it got all messed up. Like, there's always like issues just happening, like, and then finally I did my own thing on my own. So did Don Jorge, and both of us had succeeded. You know, both of us no longer had any issues. You know, we remained at the same spot for the longest. Um, so that's why I'm like, yeah, if I'm gonna have somebody, go over here with me, might as well be somebody that I could trust, that I know is not gonna mess it up. You know, so that's when I was really trying to convince Don Jorge to move with me, especially since I had already confirmed that there's no street sweepers that pass by. But he just and I told him, there's a lot. I'm starting to have competition, so I think it's better if someone's gonna come. It's gonna be you. Rather than random people that I don't know and have this spot be messed up. And it's closer to your dialysis center too. You say you want to be closer. That's a win-win situation. But he just didn't like that it was kind of like isolated a little bit. That limited to the stores, and the stores that were here he's not really a fan of. And then yeah, he didn't like all that, so that's what drew him away. And then yeah, but he pretended like he was interested, because he's like, yeah, let me know, because I'm like, yeah, because right now it's not available because some other RV discovered me and it's parked pretty much in front of me. So as soon as they leave for whatever reason, they gotta go drain the gray tanks, the gray and the black tanks or whatever. They go forget gas. I'll let you know immediately. You gotta be ready to move immediately before they come back and try to take their spot again. He's like, yeah, definitely, let me know. Yeah. So I told him that, and yeah, he's kept that in mind. And it was a coincidence, because just when I gave him a call about that, the very next day, because the whole time the last RV that discovered me, one of the last I'm gonna say, during that time, wasn't parked in front of me, and was parked in front of me for a while, for weeks. And then when I made that call the very next day, it just so happened that that RV moved for whatever reason. And I thought that they went to go get gas, so I thought they were gonna come back shortly. But no, they never came back. And eventually they came back days later, maybe like a week later. But yeah, I was thinking they were gonna come back within minutes. And then I called him, Jorge. He said, like, okay, yeah. And when he immediately answered, yeah, I'll go move right now then. And then he never came through. An hour passed by, then it turned into hours. And I tried calling him again, and he wasn't answering no more. And then I tried calling him one more time after several hours passed, and he didn't come. Then the following day, I was going to try calling him again, but that's when I'm like, you know what? At this point, I feel like I'm bothering him. I'm pretty sure he's not answering. That's pretty much a hint to me saying that he's not interested, So I'm not going to harass him. I'm not going to bother him. It's like, he just doesn't want to do it, Even though he said initially that he makes it sound like he's really interested, but he's really not. So I'm just gonna leave that alone. So he never came, and then the RV ended up coming like a week. Ended up returning like a week later. After the RV returned, I finally got a call back from Don Jorge, and when he called me, I didn't even want to mention anything about the whole, like, what happened, how can you move right here. I didn't even want to bring it up. I just want to, listen to him and see what he had to say. And pretty much he was saying, he was just complaining. He said, "Damn, you're never gonna believe, you know how I had to move constantly my RV because of the street sweeper. So I was getting ready to move my RV, and you know how I bust a U-turn, so I don't have to go all the way around the block just to move the RV to the other side. So I was trying to bust a U-turn as usual, but I got too close to the branches. You know how there's a lot of tree branches on top where I park at. I got too close to it, and then it pretty much broke off my right mirror from my RV. So now I don't have a right mirror, and then it's like yeah, and I really need it, and I'm like, man, that sucks, man. Or let me see if I can find one on eBay that's compatible with your RV. But yeah, it's probably gonna be a pretty penny, And he's like, yeah, I know. Yeah. And then what? I want to say like 2 days later, he called me again, and then that's when he told me, he's like, Gio, you won't believe it, again. I went through the same thing again, but this time the tree branches. Again, I was trying to bust the U-turn, but I don't know. I've been messing up lately, and this time the tree branches got my windshield. My whole entire windshield is cracked right now, and it's like it actually broke off. Like it's missing. So there's just all this type of air going in, and I have no privacy, so anybody could just go into my RV and then break in and steal my stuff when I'm gone, or even when I'm sleeping, which is not a good thing. And then I got to deal with the cold and possible rain in the future. Is like, man, this is even worse than the mirrors. This is really bad. And then I was just gonna ask to see if you happen to know anybody that replaces windshields, and yeah. And then that's when I'm like, when he told me that the day before, I had barely gotten my windshield replaced. No, not my windshield. I got my window replaced. On my old car that had gotten shattered. Somebody had shattered it, which I'm pretty sure I know who it was. But yeah. So, and that person is mobile. He goes to you and he replaces the windshield or windows, whatever. So I told him that, I'm like, man, you're lucky. I actually just got mine replaced yesterday, but it was for my car though. But he did go to me, and he charges very cheap too, really good deal. And he's like, so I'll give you the number, but I can't guarantee that it's gonna that he's gonna say that he's gonna be able to help you out, because mine was for my car, and I think he only does cars. I don't know about RVs, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. And he's like, yeah, I'll ask. And I'll let you know what he says. I'm like, all right. So he called, and then and sure enough, it didn't work on. He didn't work on RVs. So then Jorge stayed without his windshield for a while, and next thing you know, like 2 or 3 days later, what happened? Well, you know what? Actually, let me think. I think I'm gonna. You know what? Actually, yeah. I'm gonna end the video right there. It's already pretty much like an hour, so the video's starting to get too long. I'm gonna end it right there, and I'm gonna finish it off. I'm gonna finish it off tomorrow. So that's it for video number 3, and yeah, I'll finish this video off tomorrow. So peace.